Hi there. My name is Caprio, and today I'm just playing some Pokemon Scarlet here, and I would like to do a 7-star Tera Raid. This weekend, there's currently an event for one. It's 7-star Incineroar, and so I thought I would just kind of take you through my process for how I go about preparing to do the 7-star raids. They are kind of the pinnacle of the post game for Scarlet and Violet, and the preparation involved to do a 7-star raid, and not even do one, but win one, successfully, to even solo one all on your own without going online and trying to rely on other people. There's kind of a lot that goes into it. There's natures and EV training and all this other stuff. So I'm just gonna take you through my process. It's all I don't know, none of this is new information. I mean, these games will have been out for 2 years in November. But just in case, if this is new for you, or if the 7-star raids come around and you don't really know the steps to take in order for you to be able to participate, this is just sort of how I go about it. So I'm in Pokemon Scarlet right now. I still haven't actually not updated my game, but connected my game to the internet in order to receive, I guess, or be able to do the Incineroar raid. I'm still on, I don't know, a previous update of the game where there are still outbreaks for shiny Beldum happening in the terrarium here. In Paldea proper, there are event outbreaks for Larvitar and Bagon. In Kitakami, there's outbreaks for Gumi and Hisuian Sliggoo as well. So once I update my game, I will no longer have access to these raids. So that's something to keep in mind. Once you do decide to do the update, then you're going to any other previously timed thing is going to go away for you. But I'm okay with that. I got all the shinies I wanted from the mass outbreak event, so I'm good to move on. There was also previously, I think, there was the last 7-star Tera Raid was Dragonite, I believe, but now, as you can see, face a mighty Incineroar. There is a Dark Tera 7-star Incineroar raid. Assuming I get this out on Saturday, September the 14th, this will be over by tomorrow night, basically. 9 o'clock my time tomorrow night on Sunday. But this kind of process, will ideally function for any future 7-star raids that you're wondering how to prepare for. So now that I have connected to the internet and updated my game, I guess, all of the Beldum outbreaks that were previously here are now gone. And now, when I go over here to Paldea, there are also, during the Incineroar event, I guess, there are these extra 5-star raids for Blissey. And Blissey is great because Blissey can award a lot of extra Tera shards. Is that what they're called? The items you need to change your Tera type, as well as extra XP candy and all that stuff. The Blissey raids are a great type of raid to grind if you'd like to farm a bunch of useful items. But my 7-star Incineroar raid is right up here. Now we're not going to go to the raid just yet because we haven't prepared at all. We haven't looked at what the raid is even. We haven't looked at what the Incineroar is capable of. So this is over on game8.co. They are a website that I usually check, or at least, I don't know, they come up first usually in the Google search whenever I'm looking for information on the new 7-star raid. But you can find this information pretty well anywhere. You just kind of gotta Google 7-star name of the Pokemon, and then you should be good. So here are the main moves that this Incineroar is going to have. There's also Incineroar's regular types, and then notably its Tera type, so it's going to be a dark type for the entirety of the Tera Raid. Its ability, which is its hidden ability, which is very cool. 31 IVs in every single stat, and it's a brave nature. And then there are some additional moves that it has the ability to use, not like regularly like these moves, but these are additional moves that it will still use at some point at like scripted events or at like scripted moments during the raid. And that'll make more sense when we actually do the Incineroar raid later. So then on this website, at least, when you scroll down, it actually shows you the events and what happens during the raid, so you kind of have an idea of like what to expect. And so at 99% time remaining in the raid, so basically at the very beginning of the raid, Incineroar opens with Snarl, which lowers your special attack, does a little bit of damage, but lowers the special attack of whatever Pokemon is hit. And then I guess there's like a 25% chance, because there are 4 Pokemon in a raid, there's a 1 in 4 chance that Incineroar hits your Pokemon with Taunt. For the Pokemon that we're going to be building for this raid today, this would be bad, and we might have to reset if our Pokemon gets hit by Taunt. We'll get into the Pokemon we're using in just a moment here, but that's, you know, it's just like good to be aware of the things that, like the scripted things that like the raid Pokemon that you're about to challenge is going to do. So this is a nice sort of breakdown. Like at 50% HP, Incineroar is going to use Earthquake. That's not a move that it's like ordinarily going to be using, but it is a move that you should just be aware of before you do the raid. And then they have a bunch of other information, you know, about, they have some builds on the site here as well. It looks like Dondozo and Clefable look to be pretty good. The Pokemon that I'm going to be building today actually isn't even in this list. So you have one of two options. The fun one is to think of something yourself based on the information about, you know, the Pokemon in the raid, its Tera type, its moves, and sort of after you learn about what to expect from the fight itself, building something yourself is the fun part, sort of puzzling out how you would go about defeating this Incineroar. Or you could follow a guide like this article here. It seems to have a lot of, I'm sure, very good options. I'm going to be following a guide to build a Malamar, because Malamar has a very cool ability that I think is going to be fun to use. And this is just built by user DeadBrainDK2 on Reddit. So thank you, DeadBrainDK2. So they have outlined a Malamar set. So it's going to be a Contrary Malamar, Tera Fighting, holding the item, the Shell Bell. They have 2 different natures to choose from. I don't know if one or the other is better. And then they have the 4 moves to teach Malamar as well. And then the game plan, as they put it, or the things that you're going to do in the order that you're going to do them in order to successfully defeat Incineroar here. Our first step is to get a Malamar. So let's do that. I'm here in the terrarium in the coastal biome, which is where the Pokemon Inkay can show up. And so now, I mean, there was one here earlier. There's one. So I'm basically just going to show you, like, from scratch, how I would go about building a Pokemon for one of these raids. And so we very quickly get ourselves an Inkay. The method for evolving Inkay into Malamar is pretty funny. I believe you need to turn your Switch, like in handheld mode, upside down. There's a Poplio over there. So we've got this Inkay. I guess I have to take my Switch out of the dock in order to do this. So you're gonna just sort of see me, no signal there, but you're just gonna see that I've got the Switch here in my hands. The fan is going crazy. Wow. So Rare Candy is selected. Use on Inkay. There we go. All right. Thank you for bearing with me for that. Okay. At long last, we have our targeted Pokemon. So the first thing we need to do is make sure that our Malamar's nature is adamant, and then we can EV train it with 252 attack and 252 defense. Now, without getting into the nitty-gritty of like what that actually means, let's just like do it. I'll just like show you the how, and we won't so much worry about the why. You'll notice there's a red up arrow next to Malamar's special attack and a blue down arrow next to Malamar's special defense. The up arrow means that because of Malamar's rash nature, its special attack receives a 10% boost. Simultaneously, its special defense receives a 10% decrease or a 10% nerf, however you want to think of it. So, the way to change that is with mints. Mints allow you to just feed the relevant mint. So we want an adamant Malamar, which is, for what it's worth, plus attack minus special attack. So that's a 10% increase to attack and a 10% decrease to special attack. The Malamar that we're going to be using is a physical attacker, and it never is using a special move, so it doesn't matter that its special attack stat is going to be lowered. So here, I went here kind of quickly. Here in Mesagoza, like the middle of Mesagoza, I'm in like the town square, if you will. There's this shop, Chansey Supply. This is where I always go. I fly to this Pokemon Center here, Mesagoza West, and then I run to the square and I come to this shop right here, Chansey Supply. And in Chansey Supply, you can buy mints. There are mints for like every nature in the game pretty much. And they're color-coded by the stat that they increase. Red increases attack. Blue increases defense. Light blue increases special attack. Pink increases special defense. And then green increases speed. And then they have one mint as well here, this white one, I guess, Sirius Mint. That basically, Sirius is one of 5 natures that both increase and decrease the exact same stat. So it's effectively neutral. It effectively means that none of the stats receive a 10% increase or decrease. Everything is just flat across the board. And then rather than making 5 mints, or 4 mints, I guess, that effectively do the exact same thing, they just made one Sirius Mint, which is the one neutral mint, which is great. So I'm going to buy, just one adamant mint here. And we're going to be building this Malamar, by the way, entirely with money. You can EV train the old-fashioned way by just knocking out Pokemon, and every time you knock out a Pokemon, not by auto battling, by just regular battling, every time you knock out a Pokemon, that Pokemon will give you 1 to 3 EVs of a given stat. But I'm not going to get into that because it's complicated, and that's not really what we're here to do today. But for the most part, EV training a Pokemon and really getting one set up for the sake of a 7-star raid is on average going to cost you like 300,000 Poké Dollars in these games. So I recommend looking up another video or something for a good way to earn some money in these games. One method is you can set up like an auto battle for the Ace Academy tournament or whatever, but I recommend looking up a good way to make money quickly in these games. The item printer is also a great way to make some money. Okay, so we go into our bag. Under the other items tab, you've got your vitamins, and you've also got down here, you've got your mints. So we're going to feed an adamant mint, or use one, I guess. I don't know if they eat them. I don't know how the mints are applied. We're going to use the mint on Malamar here. And it just says that its stats may have changed because we used the mint. Now, when you go over to this part of the summary screen, it's still going to say that its nature is rash, so don't panic. That doesn't mean that the mint didn't work or didn't do anything. When you go back to the stat screen here with the hexagon, now you'll see that there's a red up arrow next to the attack stat and a blue down arrow next to the special attack stat. So using a mint doesn't change a Pokemon's nature that it has when you caught it or when it hatched from an egg or whatever, but using the mint changes the way that the stats are increased or decreased, as you can see here. So that's great. So the other thing that the guide on Reddit here, and since we are going for the adamant Malamar, we're gonna EV train Malamar with 252 attack and 252 defense. Now, what the hell does that mean? In the summary screen, you can hit the L button, and you'll see down in the right-hand corner, it says Switch Graph View. This is the EV graph, I guess. I don't know if there's a better way to put it, but this shows you how many EVs your Pokemon has gained. I'm going to scroll down to my Sylveon here. You'll notice, compared to my Malamar, the little yellow hexagon in the middle, that little yellow hexagon shows the amount of EVs that the Pokemon has gained. And when EVs are maxed out, when a Pokemon can no longer receive any more EVs, because a Pokemon maxes out after it has, I don't know, gotten 510 EVs total. So my Sylveon here, and my Appleton, and my Lapras, and my Archaludon, and even my Gallade, which you'll notice a bunch of the other Pokemon in my party here. And it's really noticeable with Archaludon. There's these really extreme spikes towards the HP stat and the defense stat. And you'll also notice that the HP and the defense stats are sparkling. That means that both of those stats are maxed out, and the maximum amount that a stat can be EV trained in is 252. So my Archaludon here has 252 HP EVs, and EVs, if I haven't said it yet, stands for effort values, and 252 defense EVs. If I check my Sylveon has 252 HP, 252 special attack. Okay? My Gallade, because I never properly EV trained it, this is more of a natural EV spread that you would see on a Pokemon that you play through the game with or whatever. I think my Gallade, I didn't play through the game with this one, but it was just in my party, and anytime you participate in a battle, your entire party receives effort values from that battle, not just the Pokemon that was in the battle. So my Gallade, just from being in my party and from doing however many battles, got this like organic sort of spread of effort values compared to the like stark contrast of like 2 maxed out effort values. Malamar here, as you can see, is basically at nothing. So what we are going to do is we are going to feed Malamar some vitamins. I have some vitamins already. I have 31 proteins. And what am I feeding? Attack and defense. So also at Chansey Supply here, if you don't have any vitamins, you can buy them here at Chansey Supply. They're 10,000 a piece, so they're kind of expensive. This is where like most of the money for getting a Pokemon ready for a 7-star raid goes into, in my opinion. If you're not EV training the old-fashioned way, if you're doing it using money, using vitamins, this is going to be primarily the expensive part. So what you're going to do, if you're maxing out a stat, right? 252. 1 vitamin provides 10 EVs. So very simply, we can just buy 25 proteins, which will equate to 250 attack EVs. There's 2 remaining. There's one other thing that we can do to get those extra 2. If you don't want to worry about that extra step, you can just buy 26, and then your attack will max out at 252, and you don't have to worry about it. But I like to just do the 25, so I'm going to do that. So there's 25 proteins for attack. I'm going to buy another 25 irons for defense. And that, okay, that already was actually, what did I say earlier? 300,000? That was a bold-faced lie. We've already spent over 500,000 with the vitamins. So I don't know where I got 300,000 from. Clearly I'm a liar. So now we can feed or use, I don't know, again, I don't know how they're administered. 25, and you'll see actually too, if you start at 1 and then you hit the down button or the down arrow, it maxes out at 26. So like, again, you could just like, without even really thinking, max it out at 26 if you wanted to. I'm going to do 25 because this is like showing you kind of a more exact way for EV training. And another 25 iron. So we're now, Malamar is at 250 attack and 250 defense. You'll notice as much as the like graph here, the yellow part of it, the like darker yellow, I guess, as much as it is close to the attack and the defense, it's still the darker yellow has not turned blue to indicate that we have maxed out our EVs, and you'll see HP and special attack here are sparkling. Attack and defense are not sparkling here, so they are not yet maxed out. Okay, so the way that we can max them out is you can use feathers. Feathers provide 1 single EV for a stat, which is perfect for getting to that exact number of 252. Or if you do ever see like a very specific EV spread, this will allow you to hit those specific numbers. If for whatever reason you see a guide and it wants like 188 or something defense, you can do 18 irons, right? 10 each, so 18 for 180, plus then you could do 8 resist feathers. Again, they're worth 1 EV each, so 18 irons plus 8 resist feathers is going to give you exactly 188 defense. I'm not smart enough to understand why EV spreads like that are like so specific. I often just gravitate towards the ones that max out 2 stats and then you can put 4 EVs into one other stat of your choosing. This one actually doesn't even specify, so I guess we'll just put 4 into like HP or something. Anyway, so what we can do here is we can feed or give or use. Again, we're probably not feeding feathers now that I think about it. We can use simply the feathers on Malamar here, and if I hit the down arrow, it maxes out at 2, so it doesn't even let you go above 252 here. So we'll use 2 muscle feathers, and we'll use 2 resist feathers. And now, when we check Malamar's summary, both attack and defense are sparkling, meaning they're maxed out, which is great. But you'll notice the graph is still yellow and not blue to indicate that we have used all of the EVs available to us. So like I said, we're now at like 504 total EVs out of 510 used. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give health feathers to my Malamar here. We do only need 4 health feathers to equate to 1 like stat point of like value, basically. 4 EVs is like the minimum to see any sort of like stat come from it, basically. So I'm going to use 4 health feathers on Malamar there. So now Malamar has 1 extra HP. It doesn't really show up on the graph, unfortunately, the like little nudge from you know, putting those 4 points into one additional stat. But you'll notice, again, Malamar's graph here is still not blue. So all we need to do, if you want it to like, it doesn't really matter, but if you just like want it to look maxed out, you can just give it 1 more feather or even let it participate in 1 more battle where it doesn't get an EV for the stats that it has already maxed out. Because again, Malamar cannot, once its attack and defense are maxed out, they cannot go any higher. So we just gave it 1 clever feather for 1 special defense EV, which isn't going to do anything for its stats. But now you'll see Malamar is fully maxed out at 510 EVs, and its attack and defense are also both maxed out. Here's the other thing that we can change about Malamar for this setup is its ability. Its ability is currently Suction Cups. We want to change that to Contrary. So Contrary, I don't think is Malamar's hidden ability. I think it's Malamar's just regular ability, but let me just double check. Malamar on Bulbapedia, its abilities, where does it say that? Its hidden ability is Infiltrator, so its regular abilities are Contrary or Suction Cups. So we could have gotten lucky with the Inkay we caught, and it could have already had the ability Contrary. So what we can do instead, our Malamar is not, you know, a lost cause. We can actually use an item to swap its ability, which is super helpful. And that item is called an ability capsule. This allows a Pokemon to swap its one of its 2 regular abilities with just its other regular ability. If we did want Malamar to have its hidden ability, Infiltrator, then we would use the ability patch, but we don't. We just want it to have Contrary, so we can use the ability capsule on Malamar here. Do you want to change Malamar's ability? Yes, please. Malamar's ability changed. Its ability is now Contrary. Perfect. So that's all fine and dandy. Here's the other thing that you can do to make a Pokemon as good as it can possibly be is, I'm actually at the wrong store. We're going to go over here in Mesagoza. Let me zoom in. We're going to go down here to Delibird Presence. I guess I can set his destination. That's fine. We're going to go over here. And again, this is all like within the same vicinity as the Mesagoza West Pokemon Center. So this is usually where I like hang out in Scarlet and Violet, or usually where I do like most of my prep for 7-star raids, and we go to general goods, and we're gonna buy 5 bottle caps, which is another $100,000. I don't remember where I got the 300,000 number from earlier. My bad. You're gonna need a lot more money. You're gonna need a lot more money than 300,000. Double it even. Double it and give it to the next person. Okay. So now that we bought some bottle caps, what are bottle caps used for? You can further increase a Pokemon's stats separate from increasing its EVs or effort values. You can also increase a Pokemon's IVs or individual values. You cannot check a Pokemon's individual values from this this menu, this summary screen. Like when you switch the graph view, it shows EVs here, which is great. And then I think it shows like base stats, I assume, in that other like faded yellow hexagon in that graph. So what you need to do is open your PC, and I think you have to unlock this feature somehow. I don't remember how or at what point you get this feature from playing Scarlet and Violet. That's my bad. But at some point you unlock the feature to you get the judge function in the PC. So by hitting the plus button, you'll notice it now says, it has a bunch of words next to each of Malamar's stats here. Pretty good, very good, decent, a whole bunch of words. Let me check my Sylveon's to see what Sylveon's says. Sylveon's says hyper trained, which we'll get to for its HP. Pretty good for its attack. Hyper trained for its defense, and then 3 bests for special attack, special defense, and speed. So what these mean is that Sylveon's IVs, or individual values, are as good as they can be when they say best or hyper trained. Best means I like caught it already like that, and a whole bunch of the 7 stars, all of the 7-star Pokemon that have come out so far are best, have the best IVs that they can, which is 31 out of 31 across the board for all 6 stats. Every single one of these Pokemon has 31 out of 31 IVs for all 6 stats. Okay. Oops. Those are referred to as 6 IV Pokemon when all 6 of their stats are 31 out of 31 IVs. Now, when I check Malamar, again, you'll see it says pretty good, very good, decent. These are like words which describe some number out of 31. I guess technically it goes from 0 to 31. So I think if I had any Pokemon and it said no good is the exact opposite of best. No good actually means that the IV is 0, which sometimes you want in very niche cases, or if you get into competitive battling. But that's I'm not going to go down that road right now. But that's just something to be aware of, is that no good means 0, and sometimes that can be valuable. But for the most part, decent, pretty good, very good, very good. These are all numbers somewhere between 0 and 31, and obviously you can assume very good probably somewhere in like the mid to high 20s, right? Decent, maybe that's like somewhere between like 12 and 15 or something. I don't know. Anyway, so that's just like some sort of indication. I honestly, rather than just having these words, I wish it said the number out of 31 here. I think that would just give you more information. I think that would be better, but it's fine. It doesn't do that. So we make do. Now, to make our Malamar as good as it can be, are going to hyper train it to make not all of its stats, but the stats that we're going to be using as good as they can be. So this Malamar and its stats will be as good as they can be for the Incineroar raid that we're about to do. Now that Scarlet and Violet is finally loaded, there's this gentleman next to an Abomasnow over here. And if you missed where we flew to, we are currently in Monte Nevera here up on Glaciado Mountain. So you want to fly to Montenevera, and then again, right next to the Pokemon Center, there's this gentleman next to an Abomasnow, and he says, hyper training, get it here. So you talk to him, and he says, do you want to do some hyper training? Yes, I do. It actually opens your entire PC, so you don't need to bring a Pokemon that's in your party for this, but whatever. So we select Malamar. If you have any gold bottle caps, a gold bottle cap will be like, for a single use, it will hyper train all 6 of the Pokemon stats. But I don't care to do that today. So now it allows you to, for as many bottle caps as you have, I have 13 there, you'll see, you can select each of the stats that you wish to EV train your Pokemon in. I haven't selected special attack because, again, our Malamar is a physical attacker. It's only going to be using its attack stat when it's going to be using moves that do damage. It's never going to be using its special attack stat. So I can save myself the bottle cap, basically, and just not hyper train Malamar's special attack. So I don't want to hyper train my special attack on Malamar here. In order to hyper train a Pokemon, it has to be minimum level 50. Just something to keep in mind. And no, I'm all good on hyper training there. So we're almost done. So the next thing we can do is change Malamar's Tera type. So if we go back to the guide here on Reddit, it says Tera type fighting. So you can get Tera shards, right? That's what they're called. You can get Tera shards from a few different ways. The best way, I would say now, if you have the DLC, is from the item printer. But again, if there's ever like a weekend where the Chansey raids are happening, like these glowing ones here are for 5-star Chansey raids, they're a really great resource for farming Tera shards if you don't have access to the DLC. Otherwise, you can just get Tera shards from whatever type of Tera Raid you do. So if we did this Bug Tera Raid, we would get some amount of Bug Tera shards from doing that Tera Raid. So we flew to Mandali here. This is Larry's gym. This is Larry's town. Just fly to the Mandali East Pokemon Center, and then there's this restaurant here. This is also the gym where you would have fought Larry. And this is the location in the game where you can change a Pokemon's Tera type. You have to go up and sort of awkwardly, it's weird and like far away, but you can talk to the person standing behind the counter there. And then there's this long bad menu and you select the type that you want to change a Pokemon's Tera type to. And just double checking, Tera fighting, okay. So I brought fighting Tera shards. Which Pokemon are you looking to feed this to? Malamar. Malamar, currently you'll see my webcam is blocking it, which is great because I just moved it. Currently you'll see Malamar's Tera type is dark, so we're just going to change that to fighting. And confirm that, and it costs 50 Tera shards to do this, which is steep if you don't have the item printer. If you do have the item printer, Tera shards kind of a dime a dozen at that point. But if you do have to like kind of manually farm them from doing Tera raids, good luck. Be patient. It takes some doing. And that frankly might factor in, that might be the biggest factor into the Pokemon you choose to build for a Tera raid, is if the Tera type for the Pokemon is just like the type that the Pokemon is anyway, then you don't need to spend the Tera shards to change their type like we had to do here for Malamar. So that's just something to keep in mind. So we have a couple things left to do. One of the most important ones is changing Malamar's moves. So the moves here, looking back at the guide, the moves that they want Malamar to know are Superpower, Tera Blast, Skill Swap, and Reflect. So let's go back into the game. Malamar already knows superpower, so that's great. And then first, I like to see if Malamar can remember any of these moves. Nope. So then I see if it can learn any of these moves by TM. I'm going to sort by name. And first we're looking for... Okay, so Terra Blast is like definitely a TM. So we'll teach that. We'll get rid of Switcheroo. That's fine. Next, there's also Skill Swap and Reflect. Skill Swap. Do I have a Skill Swap? I do. I've got 4, in fact. I'll get rid of Foul Play for that. And then finally Reflect. I don't have any. Okay, so if you don't have any of a TM, you got to go to the TM Maker, TM Printer, which is at any Pokemon Center. Technical Machine, of course. I should have known. And we're looking for Reflect. So I'm going to go to Psychic type moves and Reflect. There it is. Takes 3 Drowsy Fur and 3 Flittle down. So I'm just going to make a Reflect. And we can automatically teach this to Malamar here. Get rid of Topsy-Turvy. Now, the guide also says that Terra Blast and Superpower should be PP maxed. Now, what does that mean? You can increase the amount of PP or power points that moves have. So, Superpower is a great example. It only has 5 PP regularly. And Terra Blast as well only has 10, but 5 is a really low amount. So you can go to your bag, go to other items, and then all these are sorted by name. I want to sort by type for this. Up to you, depending on what you have. You can either use 3 PP ups on a single move, and that will fully max out that move, or you can use a single PP max, and that will effectively function as using 3 PP ups. So I'm just going to use 3 PP ups on Superpower. The amount of PP gained depends on the amount of PP that a move starts with. So since Superpower only starts with 5, then it only goes up to 8. But you'll see Terra Blast started at 10, so now using a PP up, it's gone up by 12. Or sorry, it's gone up to 12. It's gone up by 2, and it's going to go up by 2 every single time for a max of 16 total Terra Blasts. So now we have the move set on our Malamar, and we're almost there. We're going to... The guide also says to give Malamar a Shell Bell for its item, and that's a great item often used for Tera Raids. Basically, you heal damage, or you heal health. You heal health, I guess. In... How do I put this? You heal based on the amount of, like, damage you do. The holder restores a little HP to itself every time it inflicts damage with an attack. It says a little HP here, because in regular battles, Shell Bell doesn't actually heal, like, a ton, but it heals, like, kind of based on the amount of damage you do to the opponent. And because Tera Raid Pokemon have so much health, you end up healing like half your health bar if you do a lot of damage. You end up healing a ton with Shell Bell. So I have a whole bunch of Shell Bells like purchased, just because it ends up being an item that I just end up like leaving on so many Pokemon. Like if you want to have a box of Tera Raid Pokemon just ready to go for, like, if you're doing a bunch of Tera Raid farming or whatever, and you want to have a bunch just like ready, and you don't want to have to be constantly swapping around items on them, just buy multiples of the items, and you can buy multiples of Shell Bell and a whole bunch of like other useful items. In Levincia, I want to say at the Delibird presence in Levincia, I think is where you get Shell Bell. So anyway, Oh, now I gotta go find it again. I wish the menus in Scarlet and Violet were smarter. Like, it doesn't remember what you were last on, I don't think, if you leave. Ooh, sorry, not use, give. So we'll give a Shell Bell to Malamar. And now we have one last step. Our Malamar has, it's had all of its stats, like, maximized. Its ability changed. It has all of the moves, all of that stuff. It's now holding the proper item. The only thing that's missing is it's way too low level. You should always be bringing a level 100 into a 7-star Tera Raid. Even if you haven't done the EV training or whatever, at least bring a level 100. That's like the most important step. So at the very top of the other items pouch in your bag, I guess, you've got XP candies and you've got rare candies. I've got a bunch of XP candy L's. These are mostly from the item printer because I have farmed the shit out of the item printer. And then 73 XP candy L's are going to do the trick to get Malamar to level 100. And now, finally, that only took an hour. It doesn't ordinarily take that long. Usually this process takes like 10 minutes for me. I just was explaining a lot as I went. And also, for what it's worth, evolving Inkay into Malamar kind of took a while. Anyway, now that our Malamar is all set, we can finally actually go do the Incineroar raid. So it's over here. I usually just like fly to whatever's nearest, set the Tera Raid as the destination so it shows up as a waypoint on my minimap. Okay. I was like, did my game just crash? It didn't, thank goodness. That would have been annoying. I don't know when I last saved, honestly. And is it? It's right over here. All right. So, save the game before you go into the Tera Raid. And now that we have our Malamar all set and we kind of, you know, we have a sense of like its moves, the way that it's built, and we have a sense of how this Malamar is sort of meant to function, we can check again the guide, and often people will write sort of step-by-step instructions for how to pilot the Pokemon that you've just built for whatever raid, and then also probably something about like the behavior of the Pokemon. So step 1, assuming Malamar does not get taunted. That is something that they say. Requires 2 lucky things up here. Pray to God the Pokemon getting taunted at the start of the battle is not Malamar. For us, if our Malamar does get taunted, we're just going to run and then re-enter the fight. It's no big deal. Step 1, assuming Malamar does not get taunted, use Skill Swap and give Incineroar Contrary. Yes, Malamar will get Intimidate, which will boost the now Contrary Incineroar's attack, but it'll use Bulk Up more or less every turn, which will weaken it further and further. This is a very cool strategy. Basically, the Incineroar is going to be using a move that ordinarily increases its stats, but because you're giving it the Contrary ability, which we'll check in game here, if you don't know what Contrary does. Reverse any stat changes affecting the Pokemon so that attempts to boost its stats instead lower them, and attempts to lower its stats will boost them. So, for instance, using a move like Superpower that after you use it lowers the user's attack and defense stats, with the Contrary ability will instead increase those stats. So it'll Superpower here will do damage and also increase our attack and defense stats by 1 stage each, which is huge. What's cool about this Malamar, though, is we're actually, by using the move Skill Swap, going to be putting the ability Contrary onto the Incineroar, and we're going to be taking the ability Intimidate from the Incineroar, which is interesting. I actually haven't read this yet. I did not know that that's where this was going. Because when I was like building the Malamar, I was like, I wonder why skill swap. Now I know. Step 2, get Incineroar to feint Malamar. You can potentially use 1 or 2 superpowers to drop your defense and make it easier for Incineroar to feint you. By feinting and coming back in, Malamar regains its contrary ability that it previously skill swapped onto the Incineroar. So here it's actually okay if our Malamar goes down. We don't want to heal our Malamar. We're just going to use attacks on the Incineroar until the Incineroar knocks out our Malamar. That's another key thing. If you're in these Tera Raids, if your strategy is to boost your Pokemon stats, the Tera Raid Pokemon will just like have an effect where they get rid of all of those stats and basically set you back to 0, which is super annoying. But it's kind of a way to like, you can't just like boost up at the very start of the fight and then you're set for the rest of the fight. It's a way to have to like kind of work around that. Step 3, Malamar is sent back in. Then you can use Reflect to increase the defense of you and your party, and or defense or attack boost, which is like an effect that you as a trainer can do. You can cheer to either give an attack, defense boost, or you can heal all of the Pokemon in the raid. And then step 4 is just to spam superpower, terrastalize when possible into the fighting Tera type, which is going to increase the power of superpower. And then use Tera Blast after you run out of superpower PP. So you can effectively, once you have the contrary ability back, after you've been feinted by the Incineroar, when you come back with the ability, then when you're using superpower, you will be getting the stat boosts from using superpower. So just use it until you're out of superpower, and then you can use supercharged Tera Blasts at that point to do a whole bunch of damage, which is a very cool strategy. This is a really well done and very interesting build for this Tera Raid. So let's see how this goes for us. Just because this is the way that this person sort of wrote it up does not necessarily mean it's exactly how the raid is going to go for us, but I believe in the strategy that they've created here with Malamar. I think it's interesting. And so now, finally, without further ado, let's actually do this Incineroar raid. Now this is a build, this is a strategy for soloing the Incineroar. There will be other builds that are more conducive to playing with other people. So if you have a group of friends that you like to do raids with, or I guess if you're watching this, then maybe if you want to learn with a group of friends, and then you can start to do raids with them. Anyway, we're just going to challenge this alone, and this is going to add 3 computer Pokemon on the team with us. So the guide says, not a deal breaker, but should have no more than 1 Intimidate teammate. So there's a couple Intimidate Pokemon that we could see show up here. Tauros, Staraptor. There's others, I'm sure, I just can't think of any. But there he is. We got Arcanine is an Intimidate user. So the nice thing about the computer-controlled Pokemon is when they get knocked out, that doesn't affect the timer. It only affects the timer, which is the orange bar underneath Incineroar's green health bar there, when you get knocked out. And I believe we're hoping we don't get taunted as well. If we do, I think we need to restart. Great. So the Incineroar taunted the Dunsparce. So we're in the clear. So we're going to open with Skill Swap. And this is going to permanently give the Incineroar the ability Contrary for the rest of the fight. So now every time it uses Bulk Up, it's going to lower its stats. Since we just received the ability Intimidate from it, the Intimidate like happened, and then Intimidate ordinarily lowers a Pokemon's attack stat. Okay, I don't know what it just did because the text didn't fully show up, but that's fine. Intimidate ordinarily lowers a Pokemon's your opponent's attack stat when you send out your Intimidate Pokemon. Since we received the Intimidate from the skill swap, the Intimidate effect like happened again, but because Incineroar has Contrary, it actually got an attack boost. Okay. So now, ideally, we should not faint again. We could still get crit or something, which would be bad, but if we check the status, we can go check out Incineroar's stats, and sure enough, its attack and defense are both at -3 right now from Incineroar using, we can set up Reflect, from Incineroar using Bulk Up with the Contrary ability. So it's doing no damage to us now, which is huge. So now we need to build up our Tera Orb or Tera Charge or whatever you want to call it. And we do that by hitting it, obviously, using damaging moves. I think ordinarily if you use 3 damaging moves, then that charges your Tera Orb. But I think that can change if the Tera Raid Pokemon that you're fighting, sometimes they can steal Tera Charge from your orb. So now Incineroar has a shield on like at least half or so of its I'm disconnected. Oh. Okay. My controller died. And the timer is timering. So that's a bummer. I might need to maybe charge that controller. That's my bad. Anyway, let's keep using superpowers. I got the backup Joy-Cons for this. I was like, why isn't my A button doing anything? And what's funny is like sometimes in these Tera Raids, the game can be a little unresponsive, so I did not immediately assume that it was my controller. Kind of just assumed that it was the game. So now we can Tera Fighting with superpower, and because we have the Shell Bell item, we're going to be healing every time we do a chunk of damage. And we've been healing, I just haven't really like remarked on it because it hasn't really been substantial healing. But this superpower, I reckon, should do a decent chunk, even with the Incineroar with its shield up. Okay, that was not as much as I was expecting, but that's okay. I think we can still get some attack boosts, and the Incineroar can also probably lower its defense a bit more with bulk up. Anyway, we can keep just using superpower. This probably isn't like the fastest way to solo this Incineroar. I don't know that for sure. But again, I'm hoping that just the process for how to make a Pokemon that is capable of dealing with a 7-star raid, at least my process, I hope it's, you know, useful for you for any future difficult raid that you see. It doesn't even necessarily need to be a 7-star one. It could be a 5-star one that's giving you trouble. Okay, now we're doing very good amounts of damage, even with Incineroar's shield. And again, we're healing up to full with the Shell Bell there. So there you just saw, now that Incineroar is below 50% health, its first action as a scripted action for this fight was to use the move Earthquake. And it hadn't used Earthquake at any other point during this fight. It got frozen by Weavile's Ice Punch. That's very funny. So now I don't even know that we needed to use Tera Blast for this fight. I think Tera Blast is kind of a just in case, I guess, as like another fighting type option if you do happen to run out of superpowers. But I think our final superpower here should probably do the trick. Now the Incineroar is double attacking, but we're so bulky it doesn't really matter. We are burned, but hopefully that's fine. We could heal the burn. So again, I mentioned the cheers earlier. You can cheer to either boost the attack stat of all 4 Pokemon in the raid, the defense stat, or you can heal everybody in the raid. And if you have a status condition, you can also get rid of that by doing the heal cheer. So we have 1 superpower left. Let's see if it does the trick. And then, assuming we do defeat Incineroar, we got to hit it 1 more time, actually. If we weren't burnt, we might have knocked it out with superpower there, but actually it might even get knocked out by the other Pokemon on our team. I don't think so. I think we're going to finish it off with Tera Blast. So I haven't caught this Incineroar yet, so I'm going to get the opportunity to catch it, which is great. I've been catching all of the 7-star Mightiest Mark Pokemon in Premier Balls. I missed the 7-star Iron Bundle, which I'm so bummed out about. It was like for a weekend over like Christmas or something. I really hope it comes back this Christmas because I missed it, and it's the only 7-star that I'm missing. I think anyway. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure I got the rest of them. But there you have it. We've now successfully captured the 7-star Incineroar. I hope this was helpful for you. If you have any questions, we got a sour Urban Mystica from that. That's great. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments if you would like me to clarify anything about the process. And yeah, subscribe for more. Thanks so much for watching. I guess, hang on, before I take off here, we can take a look at the Incineroar. This has been a long video as it is anyway, so what's another like 30 seconds? Incineroar has been sent to your boxes. Sweet. Incineroar is 5'11"? Dude. Me when I'm shorter than Incineroar? Insane. Actually, I think I'm missing maybe other 7-stars, because I remember seeing a post from Joe Saraby that you can now fill a box with Mightiest Mark Pokemon. And if I'm only missing Iron Bundle, what are the other 2 Pokemon? I might need to look into that. Anyway, here's the Incineroar with the Mightiest Mark. There we go. It's a brave nature. Again, 31s across the board. My webcam is kind of covering that, my bad, but there you go. 31s across the board. And a pretty cool moveset, I reckon. But given that Regulation H is currently happening in VGC, I mean, Incineroar is one of like the best competitive Pokemon of all time. So even if you use this Incineroar as is, you can just like change its moves or whatever for competitive, or you could use it to breed for Litten to build maybe a more ideal Incineroar of some kind. I have no idea, but this is a valuable Pokemon to have. Again, assuming I get this up on Saturday the 14th, this is only happening until the night of Sunday, September 15th. So assuming you see this in time, you still have time, I guess, to do it. Probably only like 24 hours, give or take. Again, depending on when I get this uploaded. But yeah. Hope this helped. Again, if you have any more questions, feel free to leave them in the comments down below. If you'd like me to clarify anything, I'd be happy to try to do that. And yeah, good luck with your Tera Raid battles. And I'll see you next time. Bye.